Howdy, folks. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. We are here. We have lots to discuss. Unfortunately, some of it is not on the ice stuff. It's off the ice stuff. And, but we'll start with the pre-show here because we'll be getting into the Wilson again and a few other things. Go ahead, Russ.
All right. So two things. So first one is, the Mets are going to unveil the Tom Seaver statue on July 22nd. The odd part about this is there is no game that day. They're claiming this is so the Mets executives and the Tom Seaver family can show up. But I'm sure they could show up any day that they say is free in their schedule that happens to have a game.
Yeah.
I don't understand the marketing of this. I don't understand. Do they want to keep fans out? Because like a fan like me who lives, far away in New Jersey, I'm not going just for that. And I'm the biggest Seaver fan on earth, right? But I'll just see it the next time I go to a game. I don't understand why they're doing it this way.
Yeah, it's not like they're going to be selling tickets for it and getting extra money for it.
Right.
So, and you would think that, by July, you're probably going to have 50% capacity at the stadium. So it would make sense unless this is like, we don't want to draw too much of a crowd because of COVID type of thing.
But it's in July. Like they already, like you said, they're going to have bigger crowds.
But okay, say for example, they have a game that day. The game is limited to 50% capacity. That doesn't mean that outside of the stadium where the statue is going to be, I'm assuming.
No. It'll be inside. It'll be inside. Okay. And you can't. They can police who gets in and out. So
okay. If I thought the statue was going to be like the Bobby Hull statue or the Bobby Orr statue, or what I'm saying, like outside.
I think it's next. They're going to put it next to the Apple, and the Apple is when you're walking up to the stadium. But you would have to walk in by foot from the subway, and they can put people down on the subway stairs and say you can't go in.
Right.
Like they can do that.
Yeah, I mean, if it was out, what my point was, if it was outside the stadium, and then they could not regulate how many people come to see it because it's outside the stadium. Now, if they put, had police, I mean, it would be a whole thing.
Right. All right. One more thing. So let's talk Joe Girardi. So Joe Girardi has had a few real big managing gaffes for as much as a manager can do these days. One of the ones is he made an extra mound visit, so they had to take a pitcher out of the game for that, a second mound visit, because you can't do it without removing a pitcher. He did that in a game this year. And then yesterday, he left a newly acquired or newly called up player off the lineup card. Now, the team card. Now, apparently he gave the right card to the opposing manager. He was on there, but he didn't give it to the umpire. And so when they brought in this pitcher, they warmed him up and they brought him in. The umpire is looking on his thing. He's like, he's not on here. He's out of the game. So then they had to warm up a lesser, not as good pitcher. And this was, an embarrassing moment for Girardi. He owned up to it, said, yeah, he missed that and should have, double checked it. But Mike, the issue here is when you spend a lot on a manager that has won a World Series and has had playoff success and comes in and does things like this, it doesn't give the fan base any really, they don't feel good about it. Like they just, there's no confidence. And right now in the media, there's very little confidence.
Well, as long as you bring in that high-priced manager and give him, the resources and the high-priced.
Yeah, and he doesn't have all of them.
Yeah, I mean, okay, they spent money on Bryce Harper, and they spent money to bring back Real Muto. But there are big, as you pointed out, there are big holes in that team.
No, there's some big holes, but. Still, it's not like he's Casey Stengel. I mean, he really is the face of the team other than Bryce Harper, and he's sort of bumbling right now.
Well, the question is he better than the last manager?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Gabe Kapler, except here's the weird thing. So when Gabe Kapler went to San Fran, they were looked at as a rebuilding team, all young guys.
And now they're pretty well.
By the time they would, be good, Gabe would be gone. That's what the thought was, at least in this part of the world. Well, they made the playoffs last year, and now they're on like a legendary pace of scoring like 11-run games, which, again, they've only done I think they've done it twice this year.
Yeah.
And I think it's only been done like 3 times or something in the last 60 for the Giants.
which is good news for our fantasy baseball team. But
again, here in this area, they excoriated Gabe Kapler. I mean, mainly because he was a health freak, and if he was going to eat ice cream, what he would do is get a tablespoonful of ice cream, put it in his mouth, and then spit it into something. Yes.
That's gross. First of all,
I know.
First of all, that's gross. Second of all, that doesn't exactly limit the caloric intake.
Well,
you got it in your mouth. But
it does, because before it all breaks down, it does. But why would you do that? Why would any human do that?
Because you're a friggin' weirdo. That's why.
Well, and that's why he didn't fit in here, and he fits in well in San Fran.
Yeah, but okay. But my baseball notes just before we start the show. One, welcome back, Buffalo Blue Jays to the Queen City for another.
What do you mean? They're playing in Trenton? Oh, the Buffalo Blue Jays. I'm sorry, I thought you meant the Bison.
That's the Trenton Bisons. And some people who are friends of mine are upset that the AAA team is not playing here, like playing in between when the Blue Jays play. And
I can go see them. They're like an hour from me.
Yeah, but no. So but here's the thing. It's like right now it's 25% capacity, and the stadium is about I think it's 18 or 19,000. So that would be about 5,000. Now it's going to go up, and that's a lot more than Dunedin because that's a spring training park. But still, good luck if you're and I'm hoping since tickets won't go on sale until next week, that I'll be able to get a ticket for a Yankees series in June. But I'm not holding my breath because there are a lot of Yankee fans in Buffalo and a lot of Yankee fans in Western New York. So they'll probably get gobbled up in about 5 seconds.
Yeah, and I heard the new peanut vendor doesn't like you either.
I'm not going down that road. I'm not telling that story again. The other thing from last
look it up, it's worth it.
Yeah, the other thing from last night was the Yankees getting the karmic cleansing of beating the Houston Astros. And let's just say this: if they had played Houston and there were no fans in the stand, it would have been an abomination, because the fans needed to be there. Because if you watch that game last night, even David Cohn and Michael Kay, who
I turned it on for a minute and I could still hear murmurs in the late innings.
Yes. Oh, no. And it'll probably happen the next 2 nights when they play, because there'll be different fans. But let's just say the cheater chant was throughout. The F. Altuve chant was fairly boisterous. There was a fan that had an inflatable garbage can that was taken away by security, and lots of signs. But it was like there were 10.
They gave an MVP chant to Judge too, because they felt like he was ripped off for that. Which again, fair.
Right. I agreed. But yeah, they beat them 7-3. It doesn't make up for the fact that the Astros cheated their way to a World Series in 2017 and probably cheated their way to a World Series appearance in 2019 on the backs of the Yankees or over the Yankees. It doesn't make up for that. But I was a little surprised that somebody didn't get some chin music, and that might happen in the next couple days.
Yeah, you never know. There might be a moment, but this is the one time in my life I was happy for Yankee fans doing the right thing.
Right, but there are 2 more games to go, and maybe all the focus, all the bile right now of the New York area is focused on one guy, and it's not Carlos Correa or Jose Altuve.
Just leave hanging, Mike. We'll just get into the show now.
There's the hook. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, 2021.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I don't care.
And I'm Michael Acello, and where's my Corona? And this is the hockey, not my Sharona. And this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, let's start with the statement. And I'll read it off because it's not very long. From the New York Rangers Twitter feed as of 18 hours ago. The New York Rangers are extremely disappointed that Capitals forward Tom Wilson, not Flyers forward Tom Wilson, as Twitter described it as yesterday, was not suspended for his horrifying act of violence last night at Madison Square Garden. And that was now obviously Monday.
Nights ago.
Yeah. Wilson is a repeat offender with a long history of these types of acts, and we find it shocking that the NHL and their Department of Player Safety failed to take the appropriate action and suspend him indefinitely. Wilson's dangerous and reckless actions caused an injury to Artemi Panarin that will prevent him from playing again this season. We view this as a dereliction of duty by NHL head of player safety George Parros and believe he is unfit to continue in his current role. Doo-dah, doo-dah, doo-dah.
Okay, so my initial reaction is...
Well, let me ask this.
Yes.
Do you think this is a Jeff Gorton originated, John Davidson originated, MSG lawyer originated?
Or... I think an MSG lawyer called up James Dolan and said, you know what? This is a situation where if it was real life, it would be litigated. I get why it's not. It's hockey. But I think there's a potential for a precedent here. Let's do this. Let's put this message out. And at the owners' meetings, bring this kind of thing up because, A, this is our best player. And this guy, acted like it was a wrestling match on the ice. And we shouldn't stand for that. And maybe we'll be able to take care of it in the game. Maybe we won't. But this is something I feel we should do. And, again, the dereliction of duty makes me laugh because – for one thing, George Parros has a job, and his boss helps make those decisions. It's not all on George Parros. His boss was actually left out of the communique, and that is Colin Campbell because he's got a long history with the Rangers. So let's just say it's not all on George Parros here.
Well, okay. And Paul Simon, by the way, I love 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. The worst part is the Rangers are now in a horrible situation. If they retaliate, they get into trouble due to it being permeated. If they do not do anything, they get heat from fans and lose respect. Now, I heard on Hockey Central today that they think that the statement that was released by the Rangers is a CYA in case somebody retaliates. Like, okay, the Department of Player Safety dropped the ball, so we have to take care of something.
I think there's a chance of that, but I don't think that that's the motivation to do that. Because then I think they just would have done nothing and it just come back at them harder. No, I think there's more brewing with something like this because I feel like it's not like a lot of guys in the league do this. And so we could get into Wilson now a little bit because Mike and I were talking offline and Mike looked it up and he's only had 3 fights this year. And my take on Tom Wilson really for the last couple of years has been the guys he wants to fight are the only guys he thinks he can beat up. I could only find 1 fight with Ryan Reeves in recent memory. Doesn't mean they haven't had cheap shots or something, but I mean a real fight. And when you mentioned Tread Frederick, yes, he's a rookie, but he's a very strong rookie, and that was one where maybe he miscalculated. Well, but he sort of picks those moments. And you could say what it's about in a minute. That's fine. And he sort of picks those moments. But at this point in his career, Tom Wilson is more of a cheap shot artist.
Yes.
And he is a fighter.
Yeah. I mean, if you remember, he got suspended for, I think it was 7 games for a hit on Brandon Carlo where he slammed Carlo's head into the glass.
Yes.
And he was called on for a dance with Jared Tenorti, who had been picked up by the Bruins maybe a couple weeks before. And Tenorti did a pretty good job on him. It was a fairly even fight. I mean, I think Wilson lost from memory. Certainly.
Yeah, Tenorti's a big guy.
But then remember, Tenorti got hurt, and then Trent Frederick. This all happened in a span of 2 or 3 games, where then Trent Frederick went at him, and nobody knew other than people who had seen Frederick in like the U.S. National Development Program, like Russ, that he was a pretty tough guy. And that he could handle himself. And he did handle himself.
Part of the reason he got drafted in the first round because Bruins fans were unhappy with that pick. And on air, we were very positive about it, Shane Malloy and myself, because we knew he would be a good, tough center who actually has better hands than you think,
right,
and could get to the NHL quick. And that's what they went for, and that's what they got.
But like I said yesterday, the NHL looks really impotent here. They almost would have been better off had they not even fined him $5,000. It's either, because that's an admission that he did something wrong, but we couldn't penalize him more because we didn't want to affect the Capitals' playoff chances.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about any of that. Like, we don't know for sure. That's all going to be conjecture. But, and I didn't watch the John Scott video, and I'll tell you why. John Scott was a lousy fighter.
Yeah.
So, in the end, whatever John Scott says is probably right because he's a smart guy, but he was a lousy fighter. Trust me when I tell you, he would get killed by Wilson. Wilson would not be afraid of John Scott at all. Just because he's big, it didn't mean he could fight. And that's a whole other thing. But again, with the problem with Wilson is this. Every team can't get a guy to combat him because there aren't enough of those guys that are actually good enough to put on a roster and take up cap space. That's a reality. So if you have one like the Leafs have one in Wayne Simmons, that's great. But even at this point in his career, I don't think Wilson's afraid to fight Wayne Simmons. Simmons would give him a great fight, don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's afraid to do it. There are guys that Wilson is afraid to, and that's what Colt Noor was getting at.
Right.
Because apparently Colt Noor Wilson didn't want to tangle with him.
Right.
And of his reputation.
And that's why when we had the show yesterday and I talked about internal accountability, that I think is the only way that Wilson can be stopped. I mean, okay, great. You call up, was it Mason Gersten?
They didn't do it. It's
right, they didn't do it because as well as I do, if Mason Gersten jumped on the ice when Wilson was on there, Wilson wouldn't turn him down because they're Mason Gersten. They don't care if they lose you. If I'm going to fight somebody, worthwhile, like, Trouba or
that he would like.
Right, or Chris Kreider.
Or Brendan Smith or someone like that.
Maybe not even Brendan Smith because he's a bottom pairing defenseman.
Yeah, he might not. That's true.
But Colt Noor made the point that even if he was in the press box, even if he was on the team and not even in uniform, that he would be more of a deterrent because they could put him in the lineup the next game and then he would essentially force Wilson to dance.
Yeah.
Now, this is, and like I said, internal accountability. What I mean by that is, and I've heard a number of people say this, they're saying, okay, well, we won't go after Tom Wilson. We'll go after Backstrom. We'll go after John Carlson. And if we do that, John Carlson, Backstrom, and Ovechkin are going to be saying to him, you better stop your crap because we're getting hurt now.
Yeah, I really hope it doesn't come to that, but I can't say it won't. And if it does, I can't say it's not, it's unwarranted because it is, but I don't want it to come to that. But again, there's not that many cards the Rangers can play here.
Right.
And that is a problem. That's a problem that the league gets set up. And it's also the problem of the Capitals because again, the Capitals have done nothing to calm this situation down. Nothing at all. And so they're obviously okay with it. And so that's where it's going to get a little dicey. And we'll see. Look, hockey players have long memories. They may not do anything this next game, knowing that a big suspension going into next season could come, but it doesn't mean they won't do something next season.
Now, for another county heard from your favorite agent, Alan Walsh.
Oh, yeah.
Yesterday and says, put the blame squarely where it belongs. This is on Gary Bettman. If he truly cared about player safety, violent acts on the ice intending to injure opponents would be appropriately punished. The NHL has learned absolutely nothing since the Steve Moore travesty. Well,
he is a Bettman hater, yes. So I can't really listen to Alan Walsh.
Right. I mean, even if there are some aspects of his statement that is right, it's wrapped in crap.
Because he's always after Bettman every day of the week, twice on Sunday.
He could give $1 million. Bettman could give $1 million of his own money to the Sisters of the Poor, and Walsh would find fault in him not giving it to another charity.
Yeah, and Funky's right. Like he says, the instigator penalty created guys like Wilson. That is true. I've had many players tell me that.
Yeah, but the thing is, and I agree with that. But the thing is that honestly, if I need to take a 2-minute penalty to back my teammate, then screw the instigator rule. Then I'm gonna go after him.
Right, and that could be something where we don't see a fight today, but we see a lot of stick stuff, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. And if that happens, again, I'm not going to say this game can get out of hand, but I don't think anything would be as bad as that Flyers Ottawa game like 6-7 years ago, where there was like a couple hundred penalty minutes or something. But it could, for today's standards, it could get out of hand, and we'll just have to see what happens with it. But it just bugs me that at this point, this is what Wilson is, because I interviewed Wilson pre-draft, and I actually thought he was a decent guy. And I think even up to 3-4 years ago, I thought he was okay. But he has just gotten progressively worse to the point where I can't say anything about him anymore. It's all going to be negative. There's no way. And it's like, I'm not a guy who's against fighting. I'm not a guy who's against hard hits. But I am against that. Now, Mike, in the Flyers game yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to go to this next.
Okay. So in the Flyers game that I was at, there were some bad things happening there. So let's talk about it. The game before, I had noticed that the Flyers took a cheap shot at Mark Friedman, and I wasn't quite sure why, but I just sort of let it go. Then yesterday, there was a point in the game where Mark Friedman all of a sudden is fighting Farabee. Farabee challenges him, and he looks like he's going to fight like an MMA fight. He didn't even look like a hockey fight. And so I said to myself and to Anthony, this is a little different than your average hockey fight. There is something going on here. And I tweeted, and Brian Metzer retweeted it when I said, this looks like there's some locker room angst that's left over here from when he got dealt. And so clearly, I did a little digging, and there's some unsubstantiated stuff out there, but there was an article where Friedman interviewed in a Jewish newspaper where he said he feels like he's on the right side of this rivalry now, and that was like in March. And he also said that he felt like Pittsburgh was a cleaner city than Philly, and maybe it is those remarks that helped get this going, where all of a sudden they hate this guy to the point where he had an empty net goal and Gostisbehere clearly boarded him. And I was shocked, but I was a little surprised.
He didn't board him. He undercut his skates.
He undercut his skate and he pushed him into the boards as a result.
Yeah. I mean, it was like
a dual thing. He did underdo his skates and he
shoved him. So
I was a little taken aback on that.
And luckily he got up and he didn't seem to be hurt. But somebody, I think it was like Zach Aston Reese, went at Gostisbehere, and Gostisbehere has a now this is the thing. If I had $1 for everybody says, oh my God, Gostisbehere has a hearing with the Department of Player Safety, but you didn't do it for Wilson. It's the equivalency argument.
Yeah,
and I agree with it, because if you're asking, not to say that Gostisbehere shouldn't be suspended, I think he should be suspended, but Wilson was so much worse.
Yes, but I don't know. I asked on press row. None of us seemed to know, but we all walked away after that play thinking, yeah, there is something that went on. But there was another play in the game that I want to talk about, because I think the Philly media has it wrong on this one.
Okay.
There was a play in the corner where Travis Konechny sort of got into a thing with Crosby and took him down a little. They both fell down, but clearly Konechny was holding on to Crosby and wouldn't let him up for a few seconds. Then Crosby flipped out like I've never seen him flipped out, and he picked up Konechny and he did push him to the ice. He actually pushed his head into the ice, like, basically making him eat the ice, however you want to say it. It wasn't as bad as Wilson, but it was bad. And they both just got, coincidental minors. But I've never seen Crosby react like that. Now, you can't come out in the Philly media and act like Travis Konechny didn't do anything there and didn't try and get under his skin, because we all know the kind of rat that Travis Konechny can be. And I say rat because it's an endearing thing, the same way we talk about other guys that are rats like that, like Marchand and other guys in the league, guys who could actually play. But at the end of the day, that is why that play happened. And it is nothing like the Tom Wilson play, but it still was pretty bad. And Konechny was fine and Crosby was fine. But really, I had never seen Crosby lose his temper like that. And so, Mike, that I think is a product of Konechny going just a little too far. It's the last time they were going to meet each other, and this season playing these teams so many times.
These teams just love each other so much, and the addition of Ron Hextall as the GM of the Penguins just gives it a little more bile and vinegar. I mean,
every time now, even if Mark Friedman, now he had a concussion, so maybe that's why he missed a certain amount of games, but he only seems to be playing against the Flyers. They will call him up every time to play against the Flyers, every single time, because he's scoring goals against them, he's blocking shots, and he's in their heads. And if you could get on the right side of having the Flyers in the penalty box and you on the power play, that's something they're going to do. Sullivan will do it gladly every time. So it is, but I do think, Mike, the way this season is, playing these teams so many times is why somebody like Crosby, did that. Yes, does Crosby get star treatment? Absolutely he does. He could have gotten 4 minutes on that, but he didn't, and that's just the way it is. And Jeff G, I do remember when Jan Eriksson would shadow Mario Lemieux. Eriksson was great. I tremendous defensive player.
Yeah, but it was Adam Graves that broke his wrist, wasn't it?
Right, but that was not shadowing him. That was slashing him. And Graves to this day will act like it didn't happen on purpose. Yeah. And maybe he didn't mean to break his wrist.
No.
He certainly slashed him with some fortitude there.
That's like saying Bobby Clark didn't mean to break Valerie Harlamov's leg.
Right.
No.
Hey, sorry I broke your leg, but yeah.
I don't know whether it's on YouTube anywhere, but years ago I bought a box set about the 1972 Summit Series. It was like a 3.
I have it.
It's actually like
I have the movie version, not the real Summit Series.
Yeah, no,
I like the movie version. It's pretty good.
It's like a 7 episode VHS, and this is how old it is. VHS, and that with the 8th episode being the full broadcast of the game. And in the interview, Bobby Clark, when they asked him about Harlamov, he just sort of smiles. He just he says something and he just sort of smiles, and it's complete and utter bull crap because he did it to break Harlamov's leg, and he did.
Yeah. And Funky's right. Mike and I talked about this off air, as a matter of fact. Wilson would not fight George Laraque. There's no way he would fight him.
No, and again, this is okay. Since he's a weasel, in the sense that he won't fight his own battle. He, like I said, he only fought 3 times this year, and he was forced because he did Carlo along the boards, and Tenorti probably wouldn't take no for an answer. And then Frederick, he said, "Okay, I can handle this guy," and he got a little surprised because he was. Right. Wilson's not going to fight a heavyweight. He's going to avoid that. He's going to try to goad that guy into a penalty. So the only way you can get back at him is to get one of his teammates. And I'm telling you, if anything happens tonight, it's not going to be against Wilson. It's going to be somebody like Brendan Smith slashing TJ Oshie or slashing Backstrom. Something like that. It could be.
And everybody's going to be watching this game for that reason. Yes. And I kind of hate that. Is it good for the league? Sure, they'll get some ratings. But I do kind of hate that because, again, if something does happen, then the non-traditional hockey media will be all over this. And all they're going to show are everything that happened in the last few days, like nothing else goes on in the league.
And coincidentally, that game will be on NBCSN tonight.
No shot.
Wow.
All we're missing is Mike Milbury, which, by the way, hand to God, I don't miss him at all.
Nobody
misses him at all this season. I saw a picture of him the other day, and that's when I realized, wow, I really don't miss Mike Milbury because I'd totally forgotten about Mike Milbury.
Yeah, I miss him talking about the Space Needle. Okay.
I told the story about, tell one more time. At the Winter Classic, it was in Chicago. I was going to the bathroom in between periods, and it's public bathrooms. I walk in, and all of a sudden I hear boos. I look behind me, and it's Mike Milbury. The fans were booing him as he walked in the bathroom.
Nice. Okay, let's talk about some of the games from last night. The Buffalo Sabres and Michael Hauser. I'm sure his nickname is Doogie.
At this point, he's got David Ayers beat.
Well, yeah,
Facebook friend.
I do think, though, that NHL.com did him a disservice.
I do, too.
Because in the headline yesterday, they called him ECHL goalie house. Why don't you say minor league goalie house?
Yeah, they should have said it because he's played plenty in the AHL.
Yeah, he played not recently, but I mean,
No.
come on. So, but yeah, they said ECHL goalie Hauser. Well, he made over 40 saves in the 4-3 shootout victory over the Islanders, stopping Wallstrom on the final opportunity, and you could hear him yell. Because there's nobody in the building, you could hear him yell. And now he's 2-0. And if his NHL career ends after, these two games, which it probably will, after, he's a 28-year-old goaltender. And
you never know. Somebody still might pick him up.
Make him a chance. But you know what? This is a highlight for him. I mean, if he's here having 2 victories, one with the Sabres coming back from, I think it was a 2-0 deficit against the Islanders, and the other one going into overtime in a shootout. I mean, that's a nice story to tell your grandkids.
It absolutely is. And again, I never make light of it because there's a reason he was able to make it. He's a really good hockey player. It's just out of the 30-something jobs, he's not good enough for that. And that's the way it is. So he's finally gotten his chance. It's tremendous that it's worked out this way. I don't think anybody thought he was going to get the second win. And that's the one that probably is the one he talks about, because that's the one where it's like, wow, that's really something. And you know what?
I proved I'm not a fluke.
Yeah. And that's exactly what that is. And I'm really happy for the guy.
Now, I'll say this. And,
Ganone says, is it better than the Oilers goaltending? That moment it is. I don't know if it is for the season. I will say this.
He's better than Mikko Koskinen already.
Better than Koskinen, but there is this fake belief that Mike Smith will turn into the Mike Smith of years past, of yesteryear, in the playoffs, and I don't know where this confidence is coming from.
Well, I mean, the Oilers got to be a little careful because Mike Smith did tweak something in a practice last week, and if that, he is 39 years old. I mean, they've been able to ride the wave of him playing well all year. And all of a sudden, if he tweaks something right before the playoffs, and it can happen to anybody. So, I'm not just saying it's, Gannon and agrees Mike Smith is washed up. That's great. But I just have to say this as Russ throws Anna into the other room. The points that the Islanders lost in these 2 games may come back to bite them, because you've got an extremely tight East Division, and they lost 3 of a possible 4 points to the Sabres. That pretty much takes them out of the race for first place. If they had won all 4 points, they would have had 71 instead of 68. And that would put them 2 points out of first place. But the 3 points that they lose in those 2 games, they're in 4th right now. They're 1 point behind Boston, but Boston's got a game in hand. The Islanders may be relegated to 4th place because of the points they lost in this game, in this 2 games to Buffalo.
Does it really matter?
Well, I mean, it depends on who they want to play. Right now it'd be Pittsburgh and the Islanders. If that's what they want.
They play Pittsburgh pretty well from what I remember.
But the one thing I would be concerned about with the Islanders, and, again, the playoffs are different than the regular season. We know that. But they're 23-3 at home, and they're under 500 on the road.
Right.
That's not – things can change. They could probably play a much tighter defensive style. Again, Mike Doyle says the Penguins are 6-2 against the Islanders this year. So that's not a match.
No, that's not good. I thought they did better. It is early on they did better. I see they beat them a few times in February, and I guess I only remembered that.
Yeah. So before we go on with other games, just to break in here with some news that Leaf fans maybe will have a sigh of relief on. Both Chris Johnston and Luke Fox from Sportsnet are reporting that Sheldon Keefe revealed that Nick Foligno is day-to-day. He will not play on Thursday or Saturday against Montreal. But he might be able to get back in the lineup next week. So that is a lot better than the stuff that we heard as a preliminary report that it may be a back issue, but it sounded like he was going to be out indefinitely. And that, let's just say that trading a couple high draft pick to get Nick Foligno. I mean, it's not Nick Foligno's fault. He got
Thomas Mechanic all over again, Mike.
Well, no, he didn't get hurt. It was Nazem.
Nobody they traded picks for him that you didn't like.
Right, but he was crap and Foligno's not. So, but there's a difference there, and they weren't a contender at that point, and the Leafs are a contender this time around, so it's different. And I know
you're still mad for the same reason.
Yes, it's just a minute. That's it. Fine. It's idiotic because Lou being the genius supposedly that he is, he succumbed to the wants of his stupid coach to go get a fourth line guy for a second round pick. It was asinine. Anyway, Russ has successfully pressed my buttons again. Okay. The New Jersey Devils beat one further note about the Sabres game. Anders Bjork scored 2 goals, his 4th and 5th. In 13 games, and they haven't updated, so it's got to be 14 games. In 14 games, he's got 5 goals and 3 assists for 8 points.
Is he getting power play time?
I think so. I believe so. He's playing.
It's amazing what a player can do when they get constant minutes and power play time when they're talented. Because a lot of times, look, we saw Donato did better once he left Boston. I mean, Boston doesn't always have time for young players, meaning they almost never get power play time and they get limited minutes, and it's hard.
He's playing on the line with Sam Reinhart, so I'm assuming he's getting power play time. But okay, so in 13 games, he's got 8 points. In 30 games with the Bruins, he had 5 points.
Yeah.
So, he's getting, and okay, we know, Eichel's out, and they've traded Hall, and they've traded Stahl, so he's getting top 6 time, and maybe he's not going to get top 6 time when those guys come back, but he's taking advantage of it. He's proving that he's not just a depth forward, that he's got some talent. So that's that.
Sorry, I was going to say Esmir, said Charagang. Yeah, with the Devils, 16 goals. I've watched him this year. He is pretty good. He definitely still needs to be better in his own end, but there is offensive there and the skating is there. So I do think that was a pretty good pick. I'm with Esmer on that.
Yeah, I mean, Zaka has 15 goals.
Yeah.
And
Zaka's had a really good year. He has.
Yeah, it's Sharon Govich. Sharon Govich. That's
Sharon Govich, yes.
He's got 16 goals. That's pretty good. That's
good. Brendan O'Neill asked, does that mean Nolan Patrick would score on a line with Reinhart? Probably not, because he's skating well. He does everything well, but he can't put points on the board.
Yeah, you know what? And maybe this is a bad comparison, but I'll make it because I do believe Nolan Patrick has talent.
Oh, he does.
I think Nolan Patrick is the Sam Bennett of the Philadelphia Flyers. That if he goes someplace else, he could have some success.
Yeah, I agree.
He's never going to have, because there's too many. Everybody's looking. Oh, he's a second pick and he's a bust. And we could have had Heischier, or no, you couldn't have had Heischier because New Jersey took him. You could have had Heiskanen or this guy or that guy. It's like, okay, you can't do anything to change it, unfortunately.
No, I mean, he hasn't had many points. Like, I'm looking at a stretch from March 6th to May 4th, and he's got 2 goals, 2 assists. That's it.
Yeah. Now, in other games, the Hurricanes beat the Blackhawks 6-3, helping the Hurricanes in their quest for first place in the Central. Currently, they have a 4-point lead on Florida and a 6-point lead on Tampa. Tampa's got a game in hand. Florida has actually played one more game, so it looks like Carolina is going to finish in first, setting up a Florida-Tampa first-round series. And again, I have to let me just go in the other room for a sec while you talk about this, Russ.
Yeah,
Florida-Tampa. I think that's not good news for either team because that's going to be a war.
Yeah, but Tampa can get through it. Like, it's a war, but I think Tampa can get through it. I do want to see how many fans show up to the Florida portion of those games. Tampa will be at capacity, whatever capacity is. But this is going to be the test, the ultimate test, to see who finally shows up at the gate for Florida. I hope they get the fans. I mean, it's certainly a series worth watching, and I definitely will be excited about it. I still think it's going to be Dreger in goal, and that's going to be weird.
Well, from what I've heard, now, hasn't Dredger been injured lately, or anything?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if he's even partially healthy. I think he's going to be in net.
I mean, what a statement that is that Bob, $10 million Bob, is going to be the backup in that series.
Yeah, and Spencer Knight's played well, but again, that Seguin goal did the move he pulled on Knight is something Knight's not used to seeing. And so that's something where that's why I don't think you'll see someone like Spencer Knight, in the playoffs if they could help it. I do want to mention Pete. Thanks for letting me know that Alex Newhook is making his debut tonight.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's tremendous. If he even does half as good as I think he could do, and Colorado adds him to the lineup, Mike, they will be the team to beat again. They probably are anyhow. And that could just be that little extra because this kid can skate and control the puck. He's an amazing passer. Like, the embarrassment of riches that this organization has is unbelievable. It really is. And they've drafted well, and they're developing well. And, man, we'll just see what Newhook does, but I'm a big fan.
And this, this very simply, it could be just, sort of wetting his beak. This doesn't mean that Newhook is going to play in the playoffs, but it's nice to have that option with a talented player. But
even if he is a guy that just is on the roster but doesn't play and may get in a game or two, that's great.
Yeah, but this is probably what the Sabres should have done with Pekka Luukkonen is that playing him a game or two.
I was so mad when they played him more than one game. I didn't understand what they were doing. And they definitely went too far. I don't think it's their fault he got hurt.
No.
What I do think is Pekka Luukkonen's never played a season like this where he's played pro hockey for this many games, and then you put him in the NHL level, which is now you're asking him to go a level at the end of the season. I just think it was too much to ask.
Yeah. The last game from last night, the Oilers beat the Canucks. The Canucks who definitely want the season. And
yeah, I feel bad.
4-1 Oilers victory. Draisaitl with 2 goals. I believe McDavid had 3 points, so he's up to 93. So he's gonna. I think they play the Canucks a couple more times at least, which means he's gonna get 100 points.
Yeah, he'll get 100 points, but it still won't be 200. Or I used the Lemieux, not 199, because I know he didn't play a full season, and so the points per game in that season, he never played a full season. I'm sure he missed some games.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll look it up as we.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a great year for McDavid. Unfortunately, for him to cement his legacy, he has to have a good playoff run at some point. And if he doesn't, then he's going to end up leaving Edmonton and going somewhere else at some point.
Lemieux had 199 points in 76 games, and then had 12 goals in 11 games in the playoffs that year. So that was the year. Now that was the year before they won the cup. Or no, excuse me, 2 years before they won the cup, 91 and 92.
And honestly, that's something McDavid needs to do. If you want to get mentioned with Gretzky and Lemieux, you need to score that many goals in a playoff run.
But okay, here's the difference. Okay, Connor McDavid is arguably the best player in the league. Let's say that. Draisaitl is maybe in the top 3 or 4.
Right.
Okay. Other than Darnell Nurse, who I think is a maybe top 20 defenseman.
I think he's maybe a little better than that now. Like,
top 15. I mean, I like Darnell.
15. Yeah.
Okay. And I think Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is a fine forward, but not top of. I think he's a good second line forward.
Yeah, he's very good at what he does.
Okay. I'll just read off quickly here. The lineup of Mario Lemieux's first Stanley Cup champion with Bob Johnson as the head coach in 91. Okay. And tell me who are above average players. Recchi led with 113 points. John Cullen. Now he was
on the edge, but he was good.
He was a good player, and then he was traded for Ron Francis, and they got Ron Francis at the deadline. So Cullen didn't win the cup. He was on that team for most of the year. Coffey, Yager, Stevens, Joe Mullen, Brian Trottier as a depth forward.
Yeah, but he didn't always have those players. You could go to other years.
No, but I'm talking about the cup winners. I'm talking about the cup winners.
I know that, but I'm saying even in a non-cup winner, if you want to match up McDavid and Lemieux and go to a team that was a Penguins team that wasn't as good, I'm pretty sure Lemieux's going to still have him beat points per game.
Well, the one thing, the one thing I wonder is, Gretzky and Lemieux are immortals in this league. Gretzky was able to make an average player a great player, at least in terms of the points that they got. And I always go back to the reference. The first year that the Oilers were in the NHL, coming over from the WHA, Gretzky made Blair McDonald, a 40-goal scorer. He had Brett Callaghan on his left wing. Brett Callaghan had his best career year. I'm looking it up right now. BJ McDonald, 46 goals, 48 assists in 80 games in 1979-80. And he was Gretzky's line mate. Brett Callaghan, 59 games, 23 goals, 35 assists, 58 points. So he's a point per game. Brett Callaghan, I think he was out of the league. Yeah, he was out of the league by 1982. And then didn't play for 3 more years and came back in the AHL and had 2 points in 11 games. Mario Lemieux, Warren Young, Rob Brown. There were guys like Bob Erie. There were guys like that Mario Lemieux made.
I'm looking up Crusher's stats right now because I don't think he was that great of a player either outside of Edmonton.
Who's that?
Krasinski, Crusher.
Mike Krushelnyski.
Krushelnyski, yeah.
Yeah, no, he started with he started with the Bruins. He had some years there. He went to Edmonton. Then he did
have 43 goals with the Oilers.
Yeah. Oh yes, no doubt. But all I'm saying is that the immortals like Gretzky and Lemieux made other players on their line, and you can even make a case for Crosby. Pascal Dupuis and Chris Kunitz were not like superstars,
right? No question. I mean,
where has McDavid made somebody who is an average player?
Well, the good news is he's young and there's still time to do that. And I think that's what he's going to have to do.
Right, but he hasn't done it to this point. If he does it in the future, then I'll give him all. I'm not saying.
What if he does it against the Leafs and they eliminate the Leafs in the playoffs?
Yes, okay, you're trying to push my buttons again.
I'm just asking a legit question.
Then
answer the question.
Then Leaf fans will hate him as much as Wayne Gretzky.
Okay. Do all Leaf fans hate Wayne Gretzky, or is it just you?
No, all right-minded Leaf fans hate him.
I see.
Anybody with a modicum of intelligence should hate Wayne Gretzky.
Although he could have become a beloved Leaf, but that's
but the owner of the Leafs got cheap at that point.
Yeah,
I'm not a McDavid hater, Timothy. You're wrong. Sorry about that. Couple signings that happened in the NHL, and then we'll end right at 2:00. Now, I don't believe this is a big time KHL signing, but the Leafs signed Kirill Simonov, Semyonov, who played for Avangard Omsk and was part of their championship team this year. He's been a long time. He's from Omsk. He's played for his hometown team for most of his 6 years in the KHL. Had his career year last year, this year. And I looked into this, Russ, because of the overload of NHLers playing in the KHL. He got knocked down from the first line to a lower line because Ilya Kovalchuk, Clem Kostin, Reed Boucher, all these guys came over and or were there and played for Omsk. And he got knocked down a little bit, so that sort of contributed to his last.
A little bit, yeah. Here's the report I got him that he is really good. He was better and confident last season. At that point, Hartley had him on a top line. He's tough. He fights for his space on the ice. He gets breakaways. He's persistent around the net. But this season, it took him a while to find his place. But he's reliable. And he can log a lot of minutes. That's the report I got of him for the 2 years.
Right.
So, I think they got a player that there's a little bit something there. And if it doesn't emerge, then he'll be with the Marlins. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't sign him to a 925 ELC deal. The report from Puckpedia is it's a $750,000 one-year deal, or two-way deal. So he could play for the Marlies. Maybe he just wants to take a shot at North America. Say they died. Arthur in the chat says Mike probably regularly thinks of a Burger King employee that messed up his order in September of 1992. This shows how much you know about me, Arthur. I would never order Burger King.
Burger King's fine. What's all of a sudden? What's wrong? Why is McDonald's better than Burger King, Mike?
Just because it is.
Apparently, it's not, because if someone gives you the wrong thing on the burger, you charge in there like a bull that's seen red, and you complain and demand them to do it right. I would do that at any place. Wendy's, Burger King. And maybe if you went to Burger King, they'd make fewer mistakes. No, they just have worse food. It's not, I don't know if it's worse food. I have to disagree. I think that is the perception of years ago. I think they have closed the gap significantly. No, the only thing that they've closed. And Esmir's right. I think the fries from Burger King, the fries are actually better than the fries at McDonald's. No. The fries have improved at Burger King. They're still not as good as McDonald's. The only complaint I have about McDonald's is that especially over the last year with a lot of drive-through stuff, is sometimes you'll get fries that are not right out of the thing, right? Hot. I mean, that's a pet peeve with me. If I'm ordering French fries, I want them hot right out of the. You bring them inside and demand hot. No, I draw the line there. It's like if they put condiments on my hamburger, I can't do it because I may as well throw it out the friggin' window. Although salt and pepper are condiments, but that's another discussion for another day. Please, okay. Anyway, the Blue Jays. By the way, Wendy's is good, but their fries stink. Move on. Yeah, and can somebody explain to me what mental defective dips their fries in the smooth in the ice cream frosty? In the frosty, people dip their fries. Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, what the hell are you doing? Nah, there's something wrong with that. I will say this: Checkers, who I occasionally will hit up, has pretty good fries. Yeah, the Chick-fil-A waffle fries are good, but Checkers are actually better, I think. Yeah, and I would we'll get off the fast food stuff here, but I would rate the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich above the Popeyes chicken sandwich. Oh yeah, it's above that. Yeah. So the Blue Jackets signed Igor Chinnikov, their first round pick, to the entry level deal. No shot and speed, no defense, nothing else. Right. So he's a very one-dimensional. He better score 25 goals, otherwise it's not a good pick. Well, the question is this, with, I mean, we expect there's going to be a different coach here. Maybe somebody who plays a more wide open style, whether Chinnikov stays over in Russia for another year or if he comes over and plays. He's going to probably come over and play because they're going to be desperate for scoring. They'll probably put him with Line A and hope that he, but again, the problem with that is somebody has to pass both of them. Who's the center? I know. Yeah, I mean, my goodness. And Arthur says Five Guys is the best fast food burger. They're out of business. Are they? I mean, I saw they filed. I don't know what happened. No, I don't think they're out of. I think they filed, but I don't think they're out of business. And the only problem I have with them, Arthur, is they give you a hell of a lot of French fries, but they give it to you in a paper bag. There's other places around here that do that too. And they filed for bankruptcy last July. So, and by the time you get it, the grease has dripped through the bag. That's I mean, they give it to you red hot right out of. It's not Five Guys anymore. Maybe it's Four Guys. Who knows? Hugo Alnefelt, yes, the Swedish goalie from the World Junior, signed a entry level deal with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, I was, I from what I remember of him, he's a bigger goalie, and he was sort of impressive in that he's a third round pick. So obviously with Tampa Bay, maybe he'll play another year in Sweden. Yeah, he's definitely going to do that. And then he'll probably come over and play a year or two in Syracuse before they even think about, he's a long-term guy. I mean, you got to remember Vasilevsky's under an 8-year contract. So I will say this, he's a guy that at times can be very hard to solve. He takes up a lot of net. He is a very just kind of by the book kind of goalie. I don't know where he stands in the lexicon, if he's a 1A, strict backup, or never makes it. But there's something there. And I think we have to give Tampa credit. They've done a very good job in drafting goalies over the years.
Yeah.
Besides Vasilevsky, besides him.
Yes, they have. One little bit of news, and if there's a question or two in the chat, we'll take them.
Steak and Shake. You know what? I never want to hear Steak and Shake again. I'll tell the story one more time. We're coming back from Pittsburgh. I don't know what tournament we were at. Maybe I don't know where we were coming from.
Yeah,
maybe the draft. I think it was the draft.
Prospects game.
Oh, no. I think it was the draft.
In Pittsburgh?
Yeah, the draft was in Pittsburgh one year.
Yeah, but that was a while back. This was a recent story. This was like a few years ago.
Yeah, maybe it was Top Prospects. Okay.
It was either the All-American Prospect game or the Stanley Cup in Pittsburgh because –
it may have been the Cup, but it could have been the All-American. I think it was the All-American. Anyhow, so we go there and everybody wants something, and I don't eat red meat, so I wasn't getting a burger or hot dogs, but I was going to get like fries and a shake. The shake machine was broken. Like they had this thing that's like it looks like an octopus that's stretched out, and it's got like 12 things. And the guy goes, "Yeah, it's broken." I'm like, "You don't have like a single shake machine here?" He goes, "No, we don't." And then I think it was Mike went and said, "Well, I'll have a hot dog," and he's like, "I'm out of hot dogs" or something.
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Oh, it was somebody else. It was maybe Bill Meltzer. It was somebody. I don't know who it was. And it was like, "Yeah, we have no hot dogs either." And we just looked at this place like, why are you still in business? And of course, now they're out of business. So
I've related this story before, but it's like, and this was a few years ago when they had the Shamrock Shake at McDonald's, and it was 10:30 at night, and I was dying for a Shamrock Shake because they were advertising it on the thing. I pull in, I says, I'll take a Shamrock Shake, and they said, "Well, we've closed down the shake machine for the night." And it was 10:30, and I peeled out in the car. And you laughed when I told the story before. You laughed because you didn't think it was possible for a Honda
to peel out. I remember that.
A Honda has the power to peel out there, Mr. Cohen. One more.
I have a stick. I could pop a clutch and peel out. It's better.
I've never had In-N-Out Burger because aren't they all in California?
They're all in California. I've been there, but I haven't eaten the burger because I don't eat the burgers. The fries are pretty good. They're not that good. They're not that great, but whatever.
A&W Burger in Canada is terrible.
I'll tell you who's good. I'll tell you who's good, and they're starting to make their way around here. And I've had their turkey burger. Is Fat Burger. Fat Burger is pretty good.
Okay. Couple notes here. Just saw this online. Frederik Andersen will play conditioning stint games with the Toronto Marlies. So that means the Leafs could not fit the $5 million under the cap. And
so you think David Ayers will push some extra ice shavings in the crease there? What do you think is going to happen with that?
He'll make him some nice slushies. Yes. There'll be Coca-Cola slushies at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. Yes, no, but what this tells you, if you needed any confirmation, is that the starting goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs with whoever they play in the first round will be Jack Campbell, because they're not going to put Frederik Andersen in game one coming off 3 AHL conditioning stints. No way. Now, right. It does mean that, knock on wood, he doesn't get hurt if Campbell loses a game or, does not play well, that Andersen is going to get the opportunity to come back in if he is healthy. But that I think Campbell is a virtual guarantee to be the starter in game one for the Leafs.
I just like the turnaround because I want to say for the first 6 weeks of this season, Mike would fight me about Andersen and his effectiveness and everything. And it took an injury to him for Mike to realize that there may be a better option than Frederik Andersen on their own team. And I do think that's good, Mike, that you've actually moved on here.
No, it's okay. It's the fact that you can't depend on an injured Frederik Andersen because we saw
because he's been so dependable otherwise.
No, but when he's
eliminated in the first round.
When he's healthy, he's a good goaltender.
In the regular season, when was he dependable in the playoffs?
Again, their defense has been the fault of Andersen's. I mean, he was not okay. I'll go through it quickly. He played great against Washington in 2017. He played really well against Columbus. The team didn't score in that series against the Blue Jackets. the Bruin series, he played 66 games and was averaging over 30 shots a night for all of them. You know, the 2 seasons they played the Bruins in the playoffs, Anderson was probably, I think his his shots against percentage were number 1 in the NHL.
So when is it ever his fault?
I would like to see a healthy Frederik Andersen play behind this defense. I'd like to see that. You know, now I don't. Yes, he hasn't shown up for the Leafs in the playoffs in 4 years. You can't say that he has. I mean, I don't think he was at fault against Washington. Washington was a better team. They won the Cup that year, and I don't think he was at fault against Columbus because they couldn't score. But
me being a good prosecuting attorney here. So the .897 save percentage that Anderson has behind this defense this year. That's whose fault?
Well, it's Anderson's butt.
There's no but. No, that's it.
No, there is a but because
no, there's not.
He played injured for probably half.
Oh, will you stop? Every goalie plays injured. Stop.
Bull crap.
You've seen him play behind this defense, and he was failing this year.
He was playing good until he got injured.
.897 is not good. You excoriate guys. For an .897.
His save percentage after I think his save percentage for the 7 games that he played after Campbell got hurt, when he came back because they needed a goalie, they only had Michael Hutchinson, was like in the 870s. It was that bad. So
then what about the .929 that he got during that time? So that wasn't real either then.
No, I think when healthy.
You can't say.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't because he got a .929. No, because he got a .929 during that stint too, Mike, wedged into the other bad ones.
No.
He did. I could prove it. I could show you, Mike. It was on March 14th.
What, 1 game?
It doesn't matter. He was still able to do it.
No.
That is the point.
He was playing injured.
Poor guy.
Okay. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.